All right, Thrive Nation, on today's show, we are interviewing the co-CEO for Tony Robbins, okay? And he's going to be talking to us about the importance of being disturbed by inaction if you want to become successful, and the importance of being resourceful. And it's not about just infinite resources. You have to become resourceful. So, Andrew, we're introducing today's guest. Go ahead and tell us his name, Andrew.
His name is Dean Graziosi.
Okay. Aaron Andrews, you want to take your shot at pronouncing his last name?
That wasn't right, Andrew.
No,
that
it
was
wasn't right.
That was very butchered. You didn't
agree.
pay
Not
good
professional.
attention
No.
in
Not
speech
professional.
class.
I really
It was Dean Graziosi.
Oh, wow.
Dean Graziosi.
Graziosi.
Beautiful.
If you say it fast, it sounds like Dean Graziosi,
Whoa.
but it's an O, not an A.
Yeah, actually, my nickname in high school was Graziosi.
Oh, wow.
No, it wasn't. But you fell for it.
3, 2, 1, boom! You are now entering the dojo of Mojo and the Thrive Time Show.
Thrive Time Show on the microphone. What is this? Top of the iTunes charts in the category of business. Drilling down on business topics like we are a dentist. Providing you with mentorship like you are an apprentice. And we go so fast that you might get motion sickness. Grab a pen and pad to the lab. Let's get in this. It's time to bear some fruit like some Florida oranges. 3, 2, 1. Here come the business ninjas.
Sonic boom!
Oh, yeah, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, and yes. On today's edition of the Thrive Time Show, we're going to be, it's going to be a laser show, Aaron. It's going to be a laser show.
Oh, it's going to be
It's going to be exciting. And I'll tell you this. Remember how I was calling you a few weeks ago and I said, Paul Hood, but Paul Hood, by the way, folks, out there for those of you who don't know, Paul runs one of the largest CPA firms out there in the region, hoodcpas.com. And Aaron, you run one of the largest home building companies, shawhomes.com. And I called you guys. I said, guys, Tony Robbins walks on hot coals. I've never done this, and I don't know the strategy, but let's do it. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
It was just injuries everywhere.
Yeah.
And you said, guys.
I remember the
You
hospital
said, Clay, we're not
stay.
going to do that again with you. We're going to hold out for Tony next time here.
Yeah. Back when I had 10 toes. I remember those days.
Well, this guy here, folks, he is the co-CEO with Tony Robbins. So maybe if we have an opportunity, maybe he can walk us through the keys to walking on hot coals properly. And I apologize for the burns.
Yeah.
But when the scars heal and the nerve damage subsides, you'll be grateful.
This is true.
Because it provided a great segue for today's show. So, Dean, welcome on to today's edition of the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Good to be here.
Hey, can you tell us, as the co-CEO for Tony Robbins, what do you do?
Well, not much. Listen, Tony and I have been friends for a decade. And the only reason that role is happening right now is because when the world shifted, right? I mean, listen, first off, you guys have an awesome show. Love the energy. I didn't know much about you guys till recently, and I love what you guys do. My team gave me a little breakdown, and I did a little research, and congratulations for the impact you guys are making. So
Appreciate it.
I love the analogy of Steve Martin and Steve Forbes. I love that. I can see the energy you bring in both sides, but let me just back up. With all serious, with as serious as I can be, the world has shifted and people in business are scared to death. We can be light, we can be fun, but uncertainty is at an all-time high. And it doesn't avoid anyone, even Tony, who's been a friend for a decade, transformed my life over 25 years ago when I just bought his stuff off an infomercial. When the world shifted from in-person to virtual, his company wasn't set up to make the shift. And a lot of uncertainty in the company. And as a dear friend, I've been working virtual events way longer than he has. And so we jumped in with my company and my team and my knowledge, and together we worked and shifted Tony from in-person to virtual. And we made a really great shift. And he's been able to impact hundreds of thousands of lives since doing what he does best. Even the magic of walking on coals. In your backyard, you burn your feet. When you do it with Tony, you magically glide and hover across the whole thing.
Nice.
That was what we were
now,
missing.
Now, what is the company that you have that you previous to teaming up with Tony? What is your business?
My business. It's what I do. I write books. I'm a multiple New York Times best-selling author. My two last books are over 1 million copies, so they're cranking. Millionaire, Success Habits, and the Underdog Advantage. And I've been in the self-education space for about 20 years. So I started in real estate. Actually, I started cutting firewood in high school. Then I started fixing wrecked cars and flipping them. Then I got apartments. Then I started flipping houses. Then I started buying raw land and fixing land, and then I got into the self-education industry.
You've had so much success now in so many different industries and different, in fields. I think it could be overwhelming for people that maybe, have yet to discover some traction with their career. Where did you grow up? What was your life like growing up?
Born on third base, silver spoon. Dad had lots of money. No, I'm just kidding. That's what everybody wants to- That's like the dream, right? I was born in upstate New York in a little town. Parents that were really great people, just didn't know how to do marriage very well. They were married 9 times by the time I was 18.
Are you being serious?
What's that?
You're being serious? They were married 9 times?
Yeah, my mom 5, my dad 4. Yeah,
it's actually a goal I have, Clay.
I want to dwell on that just for a second. I'm sorry, I have to dwell on this for a second.
You can dwell on it. That's a heck of a learning experience.
When you're a kid and your parents have been married 9 times, at a certain point, do you no longer really care, or how did you process that emotionally?
You're completely right. There was a point where I love my parents. I just know they knew how to do that completely wrong. So thank God for grandma. Like grandma's home was safe place, safe home. In fact, I bought my grandmother's home back about 5 years ago. I own it now. So it was such a safe space.
I'll move on past the divorce. I'd have one more comment about divorce there. And then Aaron, I want to get your take on this. I have to dwell on this because Paul, that's what I do. I obsess on things.
You do?
This is true.
A lot of people I know, I'm 40. A lot of my friends I know who've got divorced, they usually get jacked after the divorce. Like after the divorce, they hit the gym.
Oh, yeah.
They might even hit the Tony.
Testosterone and HCH too. HGH. It's the HGH testosterone gym combo.
And they start hitting the Tony Robbins books. They start hitting the gym. They start looking good.
Yeah.
They become like an infomercial that says, "I'm available," not because I am divorced, but because I'm choosing to be available, and I'm available. And they put off like the energy source that people say, "Wow, this guy's attractive. She's attractive."
Yeah.
Did your parents do that too? Did they hit the weights pretty hard after each time they got divorced, or no?
No, they didn't. I've seen it though in some of my friends, but no, not they didn't.
Okay, I wasn't sure if your dad became like Thor, this bodybuilder guy. Because anyway, okay, Aaron, what were you going to ask?
I was just going to ask on the 9th wedding, did anybody actually bring gifts to that one? I mean, you know how you get wedding gifts. I mean,
by
was
9,
the
you just go to the restaurant and bring in just.
I was going to say, was the
and you bring
table
your kids.
noticeably?
I was actually in 3 of my parents' weddings. 4.
I feel like I'm related to this guy. My mom has been married 6 times.
No way.
And my dad 5 times. So
Are
I
you
got
serious?
11.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
you're the first person I met that beat me.
Yeah, 11 times,
It's
brother.
a pleasure. I feel better about my own existence right now.
I live to make you feel better. That's
Your
great.
mom
Thank
was
you. I
married
appreciate that.
six
You know what it
times.
does, though? Listen, let's just get right to it, though, right? Not to use silly analogies, but all that crap happens for us.
That's right.
Like in my life, there was so much uncertainty. Every time, like I had a great stepdad and moving to a cul-de-sac, he bought me a Mongoose BMX bike. I had new friends.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you're in for 22 months max, and you come home and we're packing. Right? You got to say bye to the step grandparents, bye to the stepdad, leave the bike, no more friends, different school. And listen, not poor me, but we all have our journey. Like to me, I know one of the reasons it drove me to be an entrepreneur is I hated not being in control. Every time my parents would screw up, it affected me in a negative way. I moved 20 times by the time I was 19 years old. So when you have that uncertainty, I know when I dig into my heart, I'm an entrepreneur because I want to live the way I want to live, the way I want to live. I want to raise my kids the way I want to raise them. And you know, when you're going through it, it's kind of crappy, but looking back, it was just preparing me for a different journey.
You began to gain traction at some point. What was the first time where you felt like, okay, I'm getting some traction. I'm riding this entrepreneur bike. I might not fall off. Things are going well. What was that moment for you?
Yeah, you know, all of us have those moments right before someone kicks the wheels out, right? Like, I mean, that's the journey we're all on. But I would say probably 25 years old, I had a collision shop, tow truck company. I landed Enterprise and Hertz Rent-A-Car to fix their cars every time they get wrecked in my little tiny collision shop. So I would say that was a big breakthrough. And then I started buying raw land and subdividing it and building houses. That was a good evolution. But then there was a part, I think, with all entrepreneurs or most, I guess not lifestyle entrepreneurs. Some people get to a certain level and say, if I make this much, I can live this kind of lifestyle and I'm good. And then there's accomplishment-based entrepreneurs who, once you climb one mountain, you got to go after the next one. And I would say that was my first time I got momentum, but then I realized I wanted to be in a different industry. I wanted to give back, write books, do things like that.
So, did you have a key mentor along the way? What was it? The Tony Robbins, trainings that you bought, as you mentioned, or was there a?
Yeah, that definitely was a launching pad. I have to say, I know this sounds like it's one of those things you don't figure it out in the moment. Like so many times, people talk like you figured that out while you were doing it. It's like no, life was depressing or sad or hard, and you moved away from fear and you figured some stuff out because you didn't give up until you figured it out. I mean, when you don't have resources, being massively resourceful is what you need. When so many people say, if I had the money, I could do it. Excuse my language. But if you think of people who hit lotto, they have all the resources they need. Why do they fail? Because they weren't resourceful, right? So I would say that resourcefulness, man, I went down the wrong road there. Ask me your question again.
Well, I want to
get back to your topic.
No, I was just curious if there was a certain book or a certain mentor that kind of unleashed the beast.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I recognized, and again, I didn't identify this till later on in my life, but what I identified is both my parents worked really hard. My mom worked 3 jobs to make nothing. I lived in a trailer park with my mom. My dad worked on cars and was always struggling financially. And I just figured out at a young age that hard work had nothing to do with success. And then in my little town, there was a couple older guys I became friends with. His name was Mark Miller. He was an artist. Joey Noto, he was in construction. Another guy was in different business. And they just had different habits. They acted different. They figured out, they focused on what was right in their life compared to what was wrong. They focused on solutions, just little shifts. And ended up having some older friends, 20, 30, 40 years older than me. And then at about 25 years old, I bought Tony Robbins' course of an infomercial. And that kind of opened my world up to Dale Carnegie and Earl Nightingale and Eckhart Tolle and, all of them. I just went down that road and started obsessing on self-education. And, you combine grit with a great mindset, and then you just get a little bit of tactics in there and strategy, and it's ingredients for next level.
Dean, before we get into the meat of today's show, there's a lot of controversy out there about how you want folks at home to pronounce your last name. So go ahead and give it to us, because if people are out there mispronouncing your name, that's a problem. It's a problem.
Graziosi.
Aaron, you just lost the bet.
Yeah, I was off.
Okay.
It's nothing like what I tried.
Okay, all right.
Eyes are always E's at the end of Italian names.
So here we go. So the 3 components that distinguish millionaires from everybody else. There's obviously a lot of components, but there's 3 primary components that you've identified that distinguish millionaires from everybody else. Walk us through what these are.
Well, there's 3 probably that I focus on the most, but one is that word is focus. I mean, think about even in this shift right now with COVID and race relations and the crazy election going on in the country, right? Those that are paralyzed right now have nothing more than a focus problem, not an outside circumstance problem, right? The outside world, you can either be the thermometer or the thermostat. And if you focus on what you lost because of this election or what you gained, or if you focus on what you're losing because of COVID, not what you gained, whatever we focus on grows. And that's something we've all heard. But in times like this, it's really time to come back to the basics, because like the book, Who Moved My Cheese, right? The metaphor is 2 mice, the cheese is always coming. The cheese stops coming every day. One mouse crosses his arms and says, I'm waiting here till someone brings my cheese back. That was his focus. The other mouse says, I don't think the cheese is ever coming back. I'm going to go down these other pathways and see if I can find more, right? So whatever you focus on grows. And if you talk to someone who's struggling and you ask them what's going on in their life, they'll tell you all the things they're focusing on, and you could see abundantly why it's not working. So one, I would say, is focus.
Focus. Okay, focus. Now, let's talk about this for a second. I find that a lot of people that are super successful, and obviously, Paul, I would put you in that category. I'd put you, Aaron, in that category. I mean, Shaw Homes, your business is now the largest home building company in Oklahoma. Paul, your CPA firm, Hood CPAs, is massively successful. I mean, you guys have dominated. I want to dive into, if I can, the action bias. And I want to get Dean's thoughts on this. Dean, I feel like a lot of people, and I think it's a lot because of formal education, but they ready, aim, up, you don't want to miss, aim, and then they're dead. I mean, they just never fired a shot.
Yeah.
And I find entrepreneurs do really well at kind of getting to that rhythm of define, act, measure, refine. They define what they think is going to work.
course.
They act. They measure the results. They refine. Define, act, measure, refine. Define, act, measure, refine. Millionaires just seem very good at defining what they think is going to work, acting, measuring the results, and then refining. I want to get your take on this, Dean. Do you find that to be a common trait of entrepreneurs who are successful, is being able to take action and measure the results and kind of refine from there?
Of course. I mean, again, the reason I brought up focus, and it may not have been a topic
That's
8
great.
months ago, but right now with all this craziness, those that'll make it through have the ability and the strength to change their focus. And once you're focused, you have to take uncomfortable action. I mean, one of the number one traits, you hit the nail on the head, of a successful entrepreneur is taking uncomfortable, imperfect action. It's really courageous action. People are waiting for the confidence to move forward. Confidence doesn't come on its own. It's like a power plant. It doesn't have energy. It creates energy. And it's the same thing with confidence. People are waiting for this inspiration or the clouds to part and somebody to give them approval. It's like, at the end of the day, I know one thing. Entrepreneurs, the ones that are successful, know that there's no one coming to save them. Doesn't matter who gets elected, who's in office. There's nobody coming to fix it. There's nobody coming to bail us out. There's no one coming to pay our debt. There's no one to hold our hand and make us feel safe as we take this journey. Courage is not taking action in absence of fear. Courage is taking action even though you're scared to death and you figure it out along the way. I mean, my favorite speech, one of my favorite speeches, is Theodore Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena. If you guys are listening to this, just Google it after this. It's just such a great quote. It's the difference between, those judging from the sidelines, wishing they could play the game with someone else's name on the back of their journey, compared to the entrepreneurs who are actually making it work, or in the field, getting bloody, getting marred, failing terribly, but getting back up and trying again.
I agree with what you just said, and I just want to make sure we don't skip what you just said, because I don't think people are aware of this. It's called Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena. I'll put a link on the show notes so you can find it. But at the core of that message, what he's talking about is the people that win are the ones that are too busy winning to be a critic about everything else. And it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives. It's a fabulous read. Everybody should check it out. It's worth it. Aaron Antis, you have been on really good behavior. Like a few weeks ago, I offended the guests, and then they hung up. But I've been on good behavior.
True.
And then I worry that you're not on good behavior right now. I don't know. Let's see. So what question do you want to ask Dean here about success and the millionaire mindset?
Yeah. Dean, how old are you, by the way?
52 this week.
52. Okay.
You lost another bet.
Yeah. So I'm really wondering, like, for me, I'm real close to your age. I'm at 48 right now, and I kind of look back and I go, there was some key mess ups in my life early on where I probably most people from the outside were looking at me going, this guy is destined to live in a van down by the river.
I think when you embroidered Antifa is the best on your forehead, you did exclude some opportunities.
And so I just had a lot of problems. Couldn't really, as you say, get focused in. And I feel like most men fail for broken focus. And so if you could go back to your early self, or you could maybe even talk to some of our listeners who are younger and they're like, I'm in that place where I'm really unfocused right now and I just can't get out of this rut of staying unfocused. How would you end up, what would you tell that person to just kind of jar themselves out of that place?
That unbridled horse.
Get into that place of action.
Yeah. Ship without the rudder.
Yeah, exactly. How would you do that to one of those people?
Okay, so two things. I just a million, when a question like that comes in, there's a million answers. But the two I'd say this is one, I would tell myself that your thoughts lie to you, right? There's a term for that everybody says now. It's the imposter syndrome. Like, I would run my own business, but I'm not that smart. I'd start or scale, but I don't have the money or the people behind me, or I don't have the right education. So the one thing, I know you've all heard this, I'm not sharing anything brand new, but maybe it's the first time you actually really think through it, is those thoughts, that inner self-doubt that's trying to protect you, usually lies to you. And remember, they don't make statues of critics, so they don't make a statue of that inner critic that's telling you that you're not big enough, smart enough, rich enough, right? But the second thing about focus, you're right, we're just easily distracted. But I have to say, if you have this is going to, again, you've all heard this before, but what drove me through is not to be afraid to look at where my future would be if I wasn't obsessed on being successful. I failed as much as everybody in the room. Just this here, the three of you in there, your success as an entrepreneur, as an advocate of an entrepreneur, I already know the times that went sideways. I already know the people that doubted you. I already know that you were an inch away from living in a van because I've been through all those. But what drove you through them is something you were either moving away from something painful or moving towards something that you thought would be more desirable. We all make decisions based on that. But here's what I would share with everybody new. If you're not focused, if you're not taking action, if you're procrastinating enough, then you're not disturbed enough. Be disturbed with inaction. For me, in my 20s, I didn't want to be my father. My father worked hard. He divorced a lot. He was unhappy a lot. And that he did left him very upset and very angry at everybody. And that, so many people say, no, focus on a better life. No, I focused on if I didn't change my life in 10 years, I was going to look back and be my father. And I just didn't want that. And that drove me. I could get 10,000 no's and a brick wall and people with machine guns. And I just got to keep going just like you guys did, or you wouldn't be there. Yeah. So I would say is figure out what you need to run away from or what you need to run towards and go deep on that to where it lands in your heart. There's one thing I got to share. It's an exercise I did probably over a decade ago, that really kind of identified why I pushed so hard. Even in sometimes we push hard when there's no evidence it's going to succeed. Like there are so many times when you're joking, say you should have been in a van. You had no evidence you'd be the largest home builder in your state or the largest CPA firm. There was no evidence. You just had it's like God, it's faith. We don't get to see God, but if you believe in God, it's faith. You have to have faith, but faith you can compound faith by going really deep on what this means to you. And the last thing I'll say to that is, for me, when I really dug into why the hell I worked so hard is for three reasons. I didn't want to go backwards. I hated being broke as a kid and watching my mom struggle. Yep. 2, I want my kids to have choices. I don't want to raise three entitled children. The world doesn't need that, but I want them to have choices. And the biggest one for me, and I think everybody needs to find that thing you fall back to, is I want to be in control of my life. Moving 20 times by the time you're 19, you're never in control. And I was going to do whatever it took to be in control. So bad days that your self-doubt said you wouldn't do it. Your friends say you're crazy. Your parents tell you to stop being a dreamer. The thing that drove me was that I wanted to be in control and get out of that. I wanted to break the cycle of my crazy family.
Dean, I want to say this real quick. Aaron, when he was starting out, and Aaron, if I've said something that you disagree with, you can tell me that I'm not going to delete it.
Okay.
But you were delivering pizzas for Domino's at one point. Yep. Pumping a lot of alcohol into your system while delivering pizzas.
About 24 beers a day.
And because of all the beer budget was high,
the
Tony Robbins budget was low. So you went to a discounted, allegedly, discounted motivational organization. Yeah. And I want to cue up the audio, and this might have been why you went the wrong way. Let me just cue it up. This is the best motivation that you were able to receive.
I remember this.
The best advice you could find at the time before you met guys like Dean and Tony. So here we go.
A lot of pressure. You got to rise above it. You got to harness in the good energy, block out the bad. Harness, energy, block, bad. Feel the flow happy. Feel it. It's circular. It's like a carousel. You pay the quarter, you get on the horse.
And that's when I met. When I met
you
were just going
circular,
round and
circle,
round. Circular. Pay the quarter. Pay the quarter. And you kept saying, "Don't get off at the top. Wait till you get to the bottom. Don't get off the carousel at the top."
And I really wanted to be in control, like Dean, and so I kept anybody that walked into the room while I was watching TV, I took the controller back from him, and that was the thing I wanted.
Everybody's got to start.
Yeah, that's a good start.
Look, give me back that remote. Okay, so Paul Hood, you're a CPA, thousands of clients. You're here with Dean on the show, and Dean, he knows a lot about building successful companies. Sure. He's written books that have sold millions of copies. You can really ask him any question you want, so you have the mic, sir.
Yeah. Hey, Dean. So, we're a lot alike. I have never gone to the same school for more than 2 years of my life.
Really?
Yeah. And a lot of divorces, a lot of mom dragging me to beer joints, and it's great. I learned how to do turkey shoots. I don't know if they have turkey shoots in New York or not.
No, but I was really good at pool and pinball.
There you go. We're right there together. Hey, you know what? Though I've gone from below less than nothing to I've created some pretty substantial success. And the thing that excites me is I just feel like I'm just getting traction. I'm just getting going and the life that I've already created. And I want to foster that because I never want to, because I remember 10 years ago thinking, man, my life is great, but I'm just getting started. And I continually do that. My question for you, though, is you have kids. I have 3 sons. They all work for me. And I kind of feel bad that they didn't go through what I did. Now, I'm like you. I'm not going to. They're not entitled. They get nothing if they do nothing. If they do extra, they get extra. But how do you harness, or it would be great if you could harness the pain that we went through. And I really didn't see it as pain.
I think you slapping your children in front of all the other employees every day is a good start, Paul.
Oh, I do that a lot.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track.
He's doing that already.
Okay.
Yeah, but the path that made you is what made you. The things that you went through is why you are where you're at today.
I have to tell you, it's one of the greatest questions I've ever gotten because it's something that's on my mind every day. And because here's the thing, I'll tell you what I work on. I have a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 7-month-old. So I got, and my wife wants a couple of more. So I know there's more. So I have a -1 and a -3, maybe a -5. But I have to tell you, it's Paul, right?
Yes.
Paul, I tell you, it's the biggest worry on my mind because you can't replicate what we went through. And you're right. When we were in it, it wasn't painful going in it. I didn't know any different, and neither did you.
No.
But looking back, it was that running away from that craziness what probably drove both of us. And how do you ignite that? Like, how do you ignite that? My kids, I lived in a trailer park. I legit lived in a bathroom with my dad for 6 months because we had no heat. Like legit in a bathroom, going to school with no lunch money. You can't replicate that. So what I've been working on, and I did a lot of research on this, is how did they hand off generations in Europe? And to make a simple analogy, what I'm hoping to do, Paul, is look at my family like a relay race. And we're handing the baton off, right? And I know that's what you're doing with your kids. They're working with you, and I know you're working hard on that. But what America messed up on is the G3 curse. Grandpa makes it, dad maintains it, grandson, the granddaughter loses it, right?
Right.
Is because they're left money, they're not left opportunity. So the one thing I'm working on right now, and I'll just give you a little insight because I obsess on this, is I'm creating a constitution, the Graziosi Constitution of what our family stands for. And my kids know they're not getting left anything. I mean, how do you fake wealth? I mean, how do you fake scarcity or struggle when my kids mostly fly on private jets? Like, it's insanity, right? So we've created the Graziosi Constitution, and my oldest daughter knows about it. My son's learning about it right now. And we're just trying to create a relay race. We're trying to create obstacles and things that they have to overcome, trying to create a mindset of focusing on solutions, not just, I get it, but Paul, you just got to keep chipping away at it because it's possible. We both know, the Rothschilds and the Vanderbilts.
Right.
Vanderbilts were broke within 3 or 4 generations. Rothschilds, I think, are worth over $1 trillion. So I think we can figure that
Paul,
out.
I don't know, I'm not recommending that the listeners do this, but I have 5 kids. I built my initial wealth at building America's largest wedding DJ company. And I had some tough gigs, you call them hell gigs.
Yeah.
So this is audio of me. I take my kids out to seedy dive bars now, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, and I just leave them there and see if they can get their way out of it.
Find your way home, boy.
So let me cue up audio here. This is
Maybe they blew a fuse.
this is audio. Let me just play 45 seconds of audio, Paul. This is a pro tip you could do. Take your kids to seedy dive bars. Wind and weather. And there's 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds there. Bottles being thrown everywhere. There's no evidence that my theory works, but I'm committed to it.
Well, go big or go home, I guess, Clay.
Nothing works with one foot out the door.
I'm sure there's a couple folks at the DHS that probably need to know
Also,
about this.
I'm working on this theory I have called if you don't know their name, they're going to love you more. So it's like absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Hey, you boy.
So I just say,
Come
hey,
here,
you
boy.
it's people want what they can't have. So I just drop them
call
all
them
these
different names on purpose so they deliberately know you don't know. That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, my son Aubrey, I'll call him Carl.
My wife's
Carl.
son. My wife's son. That's awesome.
Anyway, I say you people a lot. You people. I'll see you guys later tonight.
You people.
Okay, you people.
Well,
All
yeah.
right.
So what I've done, Dean, is what I'm attempting to do is I've told them what they're getting from me is a roadmap. And, I've got, one son that is 32, and last year he made $500,000 a year going down the road. The middle one, he made 40 last year, and I love them the same, but they're going to create what they get. So it's just,
I love that.
Yeah, it's great. It's tough though. But like my youngest son drove a Porsche to college. Now it was an SUV. It wasn't, but it was a hand-me-down, but it was a Porsche. And so it's tough because you want to spoil your kids, or you want to show them, you want to
Right.
take care of them, but it's
Yep.
Well, you know what the funny thing is, from the outside world, there's people listening right now saying, man, what rich people problems. You got to make sure your kids aren't spoiled. But it really is. Like, the last thing I want to do is contribute 3, 4, 5 more entitled children and adults to this world.
That's right.
Right. I think we have a whole generation that grew up with participation awards and not fighting for a trophy. And now we're trying to get them to fight for another level of life, right?
Right.
We should just send them all to Chinese re-education schools instead of private schools.
Or
That'd probably help.
that dive bar that Clay was just talking about.
Yeah, the dive
That'd be a
bar
good
theory
place
is
to
really
send.
controversial. No evidence that it works, but no evidence it doesn't work. So we should probably lock the country down. That's from Dr. Fauci. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to go to a lightning round. And the lightning round is this, where we've got about 10 minutes left here with our great guest, and we're going to bring on Pastor Craig Hagan from Rhema. We're going to bring on James. He's an attorney from New York. We're going to bring in a lot of people, and we can ask whatever question we want here for Dean. And then if he decides he doesn't like the question, he'll just hang up. Okay?
Do I
So
get to go first, Clay?
No, you get to go third, if at all.
Oh.
Okay. So let me go ahead. I have two power questions for you. We're coming in fast, coming in hot. Question number 1: what time do you typically wake up, and how do you structure the first 4 hours of every day, sir?
5:30, I wake up, and I try to set the morning up for offense, to set the day with confidence, I should say, to anchor a day of confidence. So the first thing I do is think of something. I practice gratitude, not for a long time. I'd love to say I sit and meditate and align my chakras. It's 3 minutes of something I'm grateful for. Sometimes it's just that my wife's next to me, my kids are healthy. Next, I think of one win from the day before, because we never give ourselves enough credit. The next, I think of a win I want to accomplish that day. And then for me, I drink a green drink and I go exercise. If I do that before I look at my phone, I set my day up for a win.
Now, okay, question number 2 I have coming in hot here from our home office off the left coast of the Arkansas River is occasionally filled with water. I want to ask this question. What do you typically eat in a day? You appear to be a healthy guy. I could be misjudging you. Maybe it's a hologram we're looking at. I don't know. But what do you eat?
I eat pretty clean. I eat in the morning. I have a shake, and then I usually 10 o'clock I'll have eggs with veggies in them. Then I'll have a lean lunch. My wife just made me sweet potatoes and fish and some veggies for lunch, and I eat kind of the same. On weekends I'll eat whatever I want. During the week I'm pretty clean.
Aaron Antis, speaking of clean, you're pretty clean. You look like you bathe regularly. What questions would you have for Dean?
So, Dean, you've been around Tony Robbins a little bit. You've known him for a decade.
Great question. I'm just kidding.
So, the question is, you've got to have a really great story about him, just a personal story that you can share. None of the ones you can't share without causing controversy, but something great that happened that you were like, man, this is what makes this guy just awesome to be around.
Yeah, you know what? I could think of something that was funny or light, but sometimes, there's that saying, be careful when you meet your heroes. And I have to be honest, Tony was a hero of mine. He changed my life 25 years ago when I bought his course. And then getting the chance to be his friend. That old saying, be careful when you meet your heroes, it's the guy who teaches time management who shows up late, right? But Tony's an incredible human behind the scenes. Like this past weekend, he spent the entire weekend really serving at the highest level, like stuff that no one knows. He contributes more than anybody realizes. Yes, he's going to provide 1 billion meals through Feeding America, and he's provided $25 million to Operation Underground Railroad. And I think people know that, but they don't know the millions of things he does literally every day behind the scenes. He's at a place where serving others is an absolute obsession. But I'll tell you the biggest thing one of the biggest gifts he gave me at 47, I went through a divorce. And it wasn't something I was planning. I figured I'd never do that from what I went through in my life. I never wanted to put my kids through that, but I'm not promoting divorce. It was just something that was unavoidable in my situation. and I was going through a little funk because all my childhood crap was falling back on my lap, and I was picturing my kids going through what I went through, and it wasn't a pretty sight. Yeah. And I flew down and spent the day with Tony at his house, and he looked at me, and he didn't ask me how I was going to fix it or how I was going to overcome it. He just looked at me and said, "What kind of man and who do you want to become in your 50s?" And I've heard that before, but man, it hit me. He was like 2 inches away from my face. And if you know Tony, he's big, he's got this voice, and he got right in my face and asked me like 3 times in a row, he goes, "Who will you become in your 50s?" And it hit me in a way like what kind of man I wanted to be, what kind of father, what kind of example, what kind of leader. And I literally sat down that night and I wrote all the traits of who I wanted to be as a better man, as a better human, as a better leader, as a better father. And it was one of the biggest shifts in my life.
Nice. That is awesome.
How big is Tony Robbins? Talk to me about how big he is. How tall is he? How tall is Tony? Approximately 13.
6'7", 6'8". Whoa. And I'm 5'7", so it's really awesome having a picture next to him.
Yeah.
All right, so James, we've covered how he pronounces his name. We've talked about how big Tony Robbins is. Aaron has not offended today's guest, which is incredible. He's on a hot streak here. It's impressive. What question would you have for Dean here as we're wrapping up today's show?
Dean, hi. You know, we're playing musical chairs here a little bit, and I wasn't listening. I didn't have access to the headset, so I apologize if you've already answered this question.
Oh,
if you could,
who's this guy?
If you could recommend, actually, you know what? Let me ask you a different question. What would you say is like the biggest, success story that you've seen or heard of or experienced or worked with while working with Tony Robbins?
Wow. It's hard to answer because there's so many, like legit, there's so many. That's the business, he's in, the business I've been in for 25 years. But I'll tell you, it's usually the simple things that really astonish me the most, right? So we just converted, Tony's biggest event is called UPW, Unleash the Power Within. He's been doing it live for 40 plus years, and we converted it into digital. We built this amazing studio where you could see 3,000 people at once. And there was 30 or 28,000 people at the event in their living rooms on Zoom. And we could see them all because the screen, 3,000 come on, and 10 minutes later, another 3,000. So you could see them all. And watching the subtle shifts people can have just by understanding how powerful their thoughts are. Again, I'm not trying to give a whole personal development class here, but the number one thing that'll mess up everything is your belief on if you can or you can't. Henry Ford said, if you think you can, you will. If you think you can't, you won't. And watching Tony being such a master is in hours, watching people understand that they're different state of mind, if they think a little differently, if they obsess on different thoughts, and watching people on that event come alive in an hour, or watching like a husband whose wife is like in the screen and the husband is sitting back 3 chairs like, oh, my crazy wife's doing this. And then you fast forward 2 hours and he's right next to her face to face.
Amazing.
And just watching that evolution and watching them jump and say, I'm not going to jump up and down. And later on, they're freaking out. It's because they're unlocking something that we all have. We all have unlimited potential. I think God gave us everything we need. And to watch that unlocked and take off the guardrails and get rid of those limiting beliefs and get rid of Aunt Edna who told you you'd never make it, or 7th grade teacher who told you were stupid, or your parents told you to be realistic. Yeah. Sometimes when that goes down, even for a moment, you get to see different versions of people. And I think that's what I love the most.
Now, Dean, Craig Hagan, Pastor Craig Hagan is the final person interrogating you. He runs Rhema Ministries, and so Rhema has put thousands of people out there. Thousands of people out there have gone through the Bible school and have gone all around the world. So is it safe to say, Craig, that you guys have helped to launch thousands of churches?
Yeah,
at this
thousands
point?
Of churches.
Thousands of churches all over the.
We have 85,500 graduates all around the world, 265 campuses
that's awesome.
Worldwide.
So you've obviously had some success. You've experienced a lot.
Even Aaron, attended Raymond. He came out halfway successful.
Yes.
Oh, well,
thank you, Pastor Craig.
Now, why? I guess motivation is a big thing at the church.
Oh yeah.
Keeping the church motivated to do the right thing, to go the right direction. I'm sure you've probably glanced at a Tony Robbins book in the past or read some books about success. You're also an entrepreneur. What questions would you have for Dean about maybe motivation, inspiration, or anything you want to ask?
Well, actually, I do teach in the Bible school, and I see these students, 18 to 22-year-old kids, and they're looking at today's society and especially all the lockdowns, all the stuff, and they're thinking to themselves, how can I ever be successful? I mean, in this generation, I mean, so what is some tips you might have for me to tell some of these young people, you too can be a millionaire. I mean, it doesn't matter what's going on, because I actually believe that during this time, it's time to create things that ingenious things we never thought of. Like Zoom obviously has gone through the roof during this pandemic.
So I think two things. One is when the world shifts as much as it has, right? I think when the pendulum goes so far, it never goes all the way back. And in times like this, we know that some industries and businesses will evaporate or go out, while simultaneously and equally different businesses and industries will exponentially grow. So I think what you should share is the opportunity we have if we become investigative reporters. How do you get in front of where the world's going? How do you get in front of where Uber was going or where Netflix was going compared to Blockbuster and taxis, right? And it's not as difficult for younger people as it is even for older people, because they see the trends. Secondly, I definitely share that I think there's a whole generation, because I have 1 million followers on Instagram, my TikTok page. It's crazy. My kids are so embarrassed that we have a TikTok page, but we get thousands of comments a week. And the younger generation is, if someone would lend me the money, I know I could do something. And I think we need to teach resourcefulness at a higher level, because with resourcefulness, anything is possible. And what I'd love to do is if when we're done recording here, if I can get an address, let me send you a couple cases of my new book. It's called The Underdog Advantage. Hand those out. Honestly, the whole book is designed to show people that feel like underdogs to really understand how it's actually a superpower when you know how to unlock it.
Well, let's talk about let's talk about your new book, Underdog Advantage. What inspired you to write this book, and why would everybody out there listening want to get a copy of this book?
Only because I believe most of us feel like an underdog no matter where you came from. If I lived in a different area, had a different education. My nephew who works for me is the greatest kid in the world. He's not a kid. He's almost 30 and he runs half of my company. He's amazing. My sister raised him so well. But I have to tell you, my sister and I came from dysfunction, and my sister and her husband have the most amazing relationship you've ever seen. They've been married for 31 years. They're amazing people, incredible parents, have 2 good kids. And my nephew, when I was writing the book, I'm writing it from a place of desperation, no money, kind of like Paul's background. And my nephew comes to me and says, I feel like an underdog too, because my parents were so awesome. I really didn't want for much. And I didn't really desire much as a kid. And so he was feeling like an underdog because his childhood was so magical and church every Sunday. And I just made me realize we all feel that way. So what I want to do is just put a voice to it and say, if you don't feel like an underdog, you must get an underdog mindset, because the underdog companies are the ones you never see coming. They're the ones that don't follow bureaucracy. They don't follow the norm. They turn desperation into persuasion. They turn, resourcefulness into their resources. And I just identified like the power of you can't. How many times have each of you in this room been told what you're trying to do won't work? How do you shift that into power rather than an anchor? So I just looked back on my own life, and then I interviewed a lot of great people that were underdogs and figured I'd create the blueprint to shift that, anchor into the wind behind your sail.
So one more time, what's the title of your new book, and where can listeners pick it up, Dean?
The Underdog Advantage. You could go to Amazon. It's on there. Or you could go to deansbook.com, deansbook.com.
Dean, I appreciate you being here. I recognize that your IQ might have gone down as a result of being on the show. But the rest of your day is going to be better. This is going to be the worst show. Other shows are going to be better. We've set the bar. I set the bar pretty low, Aaron. It's like a limbo.
Yeah,
it's like
no, you guys were awesome.
Hey, I appreciate you for being here. I really do. Thank you so much.
You got it, guys. Take care.
Take care. I really feel like we learned a lot from that guy there, Aaron. I feel like he really did have some great knowledge bombs.
Dude, he brought some good stuff.
If you're out there and you just need kind of a checkup from the neck up, I encourage you to listen to that show a few times, because Dean brought the heat, and he's a guy with a lot of wisdom. And I'm telling you,
it was like a fastball pitcher when he's got his stuff, and he just keeps
he's
firing
got the
them
stuff
right down the pipe,
baby. Dean, great job there, Dean. And now we're going to end the show with a boom. Andrew, are you prepared to end the show with a boom?
I am so prepared.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom.
Why does this
still keep happening to me. I don't know whose prayer I'm breaking into, but I'm breaking into somebody's prayer saying, Lord, why do I keep going through the same things over and over again? And the Lord sent me here to tell you the problem is with your default. Until you change your default, you will always go back to being who you were before because you have never changed your mind. You change your friends, you change your address, you change your phone number, you change the songs you sing, you change everything else, but you didn't change your mind. There's nothing as powerful as a changed mind.
Boom! Nothing as powerful as a changed mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they got if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a betty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum, A-place. Hey, back, let me get them. Go get them then. Hurdle every obstacle, trying to do the impossible. Turned my whole life around, haters thought it was comical. Had to make some moves, didn't even seem logical. Quarterback to play, man, I had to call it audible. Drop back, stop that. Rearrange or switch it up. Only got one life to live, it's best that you go live it up. Failure ain't an option, ain't no way that I can give it up. Hey, knowledge, go pick it up. Nothing like your posse, look poppy, you cannot top me. They watch me and try to copy like Rocky, you cannot stop me. Hungrier than ever, we grinding all through the weather. We shining because we better get with us, we bout our cheddar. Once I change my mind, dog, trust me, ain't no going back. Coming for that top spot, I'm feeling like they owe me that. Time for us to level up, I feel like we've been holding back. Throw your hands up, say it with me if you know it, Dad. Boom! Nothing is powerful as a change mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they got if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a betty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum, A-place. Hey, back, let me get them. Yeah. Came a long way from where I used to be. Don't need to see life the way I used to see it. Old habits die hard, but you gotta leave them. If they ain't riding like a Harley, then you don't need them. You're cheering and you're clapping, I don't need that. Fake friends treat them like Fat Joe, make them lean back. Excitement, no vision, makes you blind, I can see that. Anything I think up in my mind, I can achieve that. I can make a million if I want to. I'ma keep it real cause I want to. Other women try to holler, girl, I want you. And disrespecting wifey's what I won't do. Gon' do your dance, gon' do your dance. If you really wanna change, gotta have a plan. Even when they sit down, I'ma take a stand. Throw your hands up, say it with me if you know it, man.
Beliefs become your thoughts, thoughts become your actions. So be intentional about where your passion is focused. There's no hocus pocus. We only live once, man, and you know this. You can't press the rewind, but you can make a beeline to the next level like you're headed for the tree line. I was born in Minnesota, moved to Oklahoma, incorporated both into my rhymes. Now it's time to show you how a former stuttering student can turn out the raps with a lyrical miracle flow in the cash to match. Yeah, I'm imported, a Minnesota refugee, but I'm consistent as can be as I rap on hip-hop beats, bringing rappers and tax. Even though that I'm wise, I can play that funky music, but I ain't vanilla ice. Here we go, here we go, here we go, full steam. 3, 2, 1, dynamite on the scene.
Boom! Nothing is powerful as a changed mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they got if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a betty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum. Boom!
And the Lord sent me here to tell you the problem is with your default. Until you change your default, you will always go back to being who you were before because you have never changed your mind. You change your friends, you change your address, you change your phone number, you change the songs you sing, you changed everything else, but you didn't change your mind. There is nothing as powerful as a changed mind.
Hear the rest of T.D. Jakes' incredible, life-changing, and mind-altering sermon, Nothing as Powerful as a Changed Mind Today, by looking up T.D. Jakes on YouTube and typing in Nothing as Powerful as a Changed Mind. That is a lyrical miracle rap